Hey world, I'm Sherry, but people call me Switz. I played Division I collegiate basketball and played professionally in Switzerland and Romania. After playing ball, I moved to Brooklyn and met fashion designer Kimbali at a New York City party, and the rest is history. We are giving dope individuals a platform to share their journey and connect shared passions around the globe. Welcome to the Kimbali Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to the Kimbali Podcast, a show dedicated to elevate dope individuals, share the journey they have been on, and connect people around the world with shared passions. I am your girl Switz, and today I have with me Kris Winfield. The gentleman behind me is a senior NBA writer, Nets beat reporter, New York Daily News contributor, and just one of the hottest Twitter handles out there when it comes to NBA content. So I want to say thank you so much, Kris, for being with us today. How you feeling? How you doing?
I'm feeling good. You know what I'm saying? I got a little water in my cup. You know, yep. I'm hanging out.
Got to stay hydrated.
Got to stay hydrated at all times. But I'm okay. How you doing?
Man, I'm fantastic. It's great to come on this show. It keeps me always in a good mood, feeling blessed because it's all about positivity. So I hope you're ready for this because today, all I want to do is talk about you and your journey. So,
oh my goodness.
Like I said, Kris here, writing, covering NBA, basically living the dream. But could you take us back, to baby Christian, Man. How this started, how the passion happened, like where you grew up, like give us that day one journey.
Man, so I guess this kind of all starts for me from just really embracing reality, right? When I was in high school, I'm just gonna keep it about. I was a fat kid, you know what I'm saying? I loved to play ball, but I wasn't really like very good. I had an okay jump shot. And I'm from Brooklyn, right? So everybody else around me has handles, everybody else can play ball, you know what I'm saying? And I came to that realization pretty early. It's about, all right, I'm not going to the NBA. Right, let's just keep it a buck. I'm 5'9" at that point, 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" now.
You were hoping for that growth spurt. You're I got a handle. I just need this height, and I'll make it to the league. And then you stayed 5'9", and you're like, nah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like being 200 plus pounds isn't that bad if you're 6'5", but if you're 5'7", it's like, okay, well, this isn't happening. Growth spurt never came, so I was like, okay, well, what other way can I go about this? Right, I want to be part of basketball. I want to live that life, but I'm not gonna hoop. That's not how it's gonna happen. But I was always a talented writer. You know what I'm saying? Like that was one of the very first things that I did. Like I've always been strong in English classes and any type of writing class. I've always been good. And I knew, and I think that's where it was right there. Like just me understanding early what I wanted to do. Like I knew, okay, well, there are sports writers who get paid a lot. There are sports writers who create different careers for themselves and are able to tie themselves to basketball. And I kind of wanted to do that. And from there, I just kind of planned backwards. I was in high school. I remember going through the application process. I remember, pushing other schools aside because they didn't have a journalism program. Schools like I really wanted to go to Morehouse in Atlanta, did some research. They didn't even have a journalism program. They had a sports journalism track in the English major. I was like, nah, that's not going to get me where I want. Ended up going to Hampton. They had a journalism major, studied journalism there, did the internships. I interned at Bleacher Report, interned at NBC Sports. And then I got lucky. Honestly, everything started for me. I applied for a job on Indeed.com, and the job was About.com. They had sports for 2 years. They had a sports section, and they were hiring for a guy to cover the Knicks. And I sent in an application. I sent them in on my resume, my clips, and from there I got that job. It didn't really pay that much, like $600 a month or something like that.
I was about to shout out Indeed, and then I was like, "Oh, never mind. It wasn't paying. Never mind." Thank you, Indeed, for getting the plug for Kris, but not Indeed, so much the payday.
Nah, if Indeed wants, Indeed could give me a payday because I'll start telling this story on their behalf.
Hey, we're accepting sponsors for the show.
No, I mean that's really how it works, right? I approached that first job the same way I approach my job now, right? I approached that job as if people were coming to me because they wanted Knicks news or coming to me because they wanted Nets news. And what different ways could I tell stories, or who could I talk to that nobody else was talking to? That's one of the best stories that I have. The first NBA player that I got, I wouldn't say tight with, but the first guy that I actually built a rapport with was Lance Thomas. Right, with the Knicks. At that point, I'm covering the Knicks. Everyone wants to talk to Carmelo. Everybody wants to talk to, I think Porzingis was on the team at the time. Nobody wanted to talk to Lance Thomas. So that's one of the things they teach you in journalism school. Talk to the guys that nobody else is talking to. went over and started talking to Lance Thomas. He becomes a really cool guy, resource for me. And from there, that's just how you start, building yourself as a writer and a reporter. So that was kind of how things came about for me. I kind of planned it out backwards, but for me, I think it all boiled down to knowing what I wanted to do early and having realistic goals early, right? Because I could have deluded myself into saying, no, I'm going to get right. I'm going to go train, go try to make an NBA push. That wasn't going to happen.
I was actually about to say, shout out to you for being so young and having that self-awareness. Like, you were basically a kid understanding where you were at, what you wanted to do. Like, let me play to my strengths. Whenever you mentioned, like, I was, really talented at writing, like, how far back, like, when did you know? Like, was it middle school? Like, did you win some awards? Like,
yeah, well, I went to Catholic school for pre-K to 8th grade. And we used to do the spelling bees, and I would be really good at the spelling bees. I think I won a couple and I lost a couple. And then we
humble
had
brag spelling bee champ.
Right. I wish I could still do those now. I might be okay. But I think that and then also what happened is, a lot of it comes from my mother, right? Like, my mother is, she came from a household that was, I think she had 5 brothers and it was just her, or 4 brothers. It was just her, and nobody else had really gone away to school or gone to school until then. And I think she was the first in my family to actually, like, get a 4-year college degree. And she was in fashion. Mind you, her mother was an accountant or worked in finance, and her pops, so my grandfather on that side was an Army veteran. So, and a lot of times when you come from different communities or different backgrounds like mine, you have parents that tell you, okay, no, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, you need to follow X certain career path. And my mother didn't do that. And then on top of that, she instilled in me, hey, you don't have to do what I did. You don't have to do what any other people did. You can do whatever it is that you want. Just be sure you want to do it and be sure you're passionate about it, And because I got that type of reassurance from her from the jump, really gave me that security within myself to know, okay, everything's going to be okay so long as I have a plan on what I want to do, and I'm sure I want to do it and my heart's in the right place. So I think that helped me a lot for sure.
Oh, shout out to moms, because that was actually going to be my follow-up. So, like, whenever you decided, hey fam, I realize I'm not going to make it to the NBA, but I want to write about the NBA. I was about to, like, how did the family take it? So your mom supported it. Was there anybody in the family or friends that kind of looked at you sideways like, Kris?
100%. I'll never forget. This is one of the reasons I'm here now. My Uncle Tony, if you ever end up watching this, you're one of the reasons why I'm here right now today. We had a sit down. It was me, my mother, my step pops at the time, and my uncle and a couple of my cousins. And I was going through this whole process. Okay, well, what do you want to do? This is a big move for you. And I was like, hey, I want to be a sports writer. And my uncle goes, and my mother's name is Lena, and everybody calls her Lean for short. My uncle goes, I don't know, Lean. I don't know if it's going to work out for him. And I'll never forget that, because I took that with me. And now, what I'm saying, I never told my uncle, I haven't pulled that card yet, but one of these is I'm going to pull it and be like, hey, I remember you doubted me. And now I'm about to hit you.
That was your motivation right there. Yeah. As soon as people said, I don't know, but
I needed that.
Yeah. But what happened? Because after the Knicks gig, because it sounded like you were with Indeed, then you were able to get to the Knicks. Now you're with the Nets, and I feel like you're at courtside. I mean, you're one of the few people that already got into the arena when it was only like 2,000 people. So, like, walk me through, like, the steps that you took after that first job covering the Knicks. Like, what happened after that?
Sure. So I covered the Knicks for that 1 year. And then, like I said, About.com only had that sports section for 2 years. After that, they decided to shut it down. So that's where it gets real murky for writers, right? Because a lot of our jobs, especially earlier on, they come unpaid, right? Like, you got unpaid internships, you got jobs that want to pay you $5 for a story. And I had to take one of those jobs right after. I took a job at Elite Sports New York. It wasn't really a job, they were looking for somebody to write. I had a decent following at that point. I was verified on Twitter. They were happy to have me. But for that, it just became consistently pumping out content that people wanted to read, right? And for me, that was stories that were well written, that were talking to guys that weren't just Carmelo or the coach or KP, like whoever else is on the roster. And I got lucky. I mean, I guess people say it's luck, but you have to be prepared for an opportunity to actually cash in on that luck, right? Like, you can, like, 6 different people could be in running for the same opportunity, but if you're not prepared for that opportunity, it's going to be somebody else's luck. You have to be prepared for it. And I just happened to be prepared. There was an opening at SB Nation, which is really where I got I guess you call it a start, in a way, that they hired me to be an NBA writer. So I went from writing just about the Knicks to having my thoughts about the entire league on display on a national platform, which was dope. And I kind of really built my following and just my brand and myself. I feel like at SB Nation, which is like my first full-time sports writing job, they were leaning into, okay, well, we know you can write, we know you know how to write, but we think that you're actually creative as an individual. And we want you to lean into some of those things that make you you. So there I started to write about how sports and food go together. I started to get some of my opinions off, and that's really where it started to really grow for me. So that's kind of how it went from covering the Knicks to this little unclear time where I was writing for $5 to $10 a story to getting hired away on a full-time basis to cover the NBA, and then getting hired away from there 2 years later to where I'm at now.
So I love that you talked about how you were able to open up the other creative outlets and, marry in the food, because I saw the article about, when you were on the road trip and you were bragging about these yams and how delicious the yams were. Like, the writing style, like I felt like I was tasting the yams, dude.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
So is that where it happened, whenever they kind of told you like, let this fly? Or like, have you always had like a love for cooking and now everyone else just knows about it?
I would say that happened. So when you're a writer and you're in school, they teach you not to use the word I, right? Like, don't insert your point of view into stories, because in a way, and you can have your perspective in a story without using I, right? You can use your senses and say it smells like this, or you can see certain things. But at SB Nation, they almost kind of like encourage you to tell stories the most efficient ways you can. And one of the biggest stories that I wrote there was I don't know what anniversary it was, but it was on the anniversary of Biggie's death, right? And they had a Biggie night at Barclays Center, and his mom comes there, and they said, hey, just go cover it. And one of those things, I walked into the first thing I remember, I walked into Barclays Center. As soon as I stepped onto the court, it smelled like Henny, right? Like, I know what that smell. I'm like, hold on, I know that smell. And I'm looking around at people's cups. It's clear plastic cups like this one, and I see the dark liquid. I'm like, oh no, everybody's in here drinking Henny. And that was probably, if that wasn't my first line, that was one of my second lines. I was like, you could smell the Henny in the arena. And then from there, I meet Biggie's mom. I give her a hug. I tell her what I'm doing. I talk to her. And from there, just embracing that. I think that story was really a turning point for me in a way, because I wrote that story in the first tense some ways. I grew up, I played a lot of video games, but I didn't listen to a lot of Biggie. I didn't listen to a lot of rap. My brother was over there freestyling, rapping, listening to freestyle battles. I didn't really care about that. So that in a way kind of served as a trip down memory lane and really recentered me. And that really gave me the confidence to be able to speak in that first person tone. And I think that's a lot of it. It's like, just how confident are you in using the word I, and in understand that your perspective is what people are reading for, right? Because everyone can say, okay, Kevin Durant is out for the next week and a half. Will be reevaluated next week because of an MRI. But not everybody can have certain swings on certain things. Not everybody, like I'm writing today, I wrote, hey, Kevin Durant is out for a week and a half, but next week, Wednesday, might be the best day to play him. Why? Because that gives them one game before they warm up against the Lakers. And on top of that, they've got 2 sets of back-to-back. So, I mean, I say all that to say, like, and this is what I learned at SB Nation, which opened me up. It's that, people are tapping into you because they're tapping into you, right? They want to know who you are. They want to learn more about you, and people learn more about you through your writing. And that was one big thing I learned there, that I think it kind of taught me a lot about myself in a way, and I'll appreciate them for that forever.
Yeah, no, facts. I mean, even the story that you were talking about with Biggie's mom, I'm like, who wouldn't want to read that article? Like, you being a kid growing up in Brooklyn to being at the Biggie night in the Barclays Center with Henny flowing, hugging Biggie's mom. Like, what? Those sentences almost didn't like seem true. Like, even coming out of you lived the dream in that moment. And it made me think about everything else that you've probably had an opportunity to do on this journey. Has ever been another moment where you're like, wow, like a feeling of you've made it, this is it? Or maybe even like someone who like got you starstruck the first time? Because I know you got tons of stories.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, there's always someone that you looked up to that then comes back to you and says, hey, I really like your work. One guy in my field is Bruce Beck. Bruce Beck's been at NBC Sports. I think it's NBC. It's either NBC or CBS Sports for like 20 years. And that's the guy, I'm 28. So I think he's been there. 8-year-old me is a huge sports fan. That's the guy I'm watching late night who's got the sports anchor stories, right? And this was earlier this season, actually, this happened. Either this was early this season or late last season. You know, the days are ridiculous now. They're just all one day now.
Ever since the pandemic, it's like
ridiculous.
everything. It's all
ridiculous.
one day: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday day.
Yeah, my joke with my friends is that every day feels like a Tuesday. But you know, I'm sitting at Barclays Center, minding my business, doing my work, and I feel someone tap my shoulder, and I look over, and it's Bruce. Bruce Beck taps me, and he goes, "Hey man, I just want to let you know, I'm really, proud of the work that you've been doing. You've been doing some awesome work, and keep going." And I'm like, man, to hear that from someone that I grew up watching on TV, it's crazy. You know, my first day covering the Knicks for about.com. So this is my very first day at Madison Square Garden doing anything. And I had to fight for those credentials because they weren't trying to give me the credentials immediately. You know, my first day, I shot Ian Begley a DM. He's the guy who covered the Knicks for ESPN for a while. And I was like, hey, I'm nervous. I don't really know what I should do. He goes, hey, you're going to be fine. First day, I don't even ask a question. I think Derek Fisher is the coach at that point. I don't even ask a question. And then I was like, yeah, I was a little nervous. I didn't want to ask him. He's like, yeah, man, you don't got to be nervous. You just got to do your thing. Next day, I come back and I ask a question. Ian pulls me. He goes, hey, that was a really good question. You need to ask more questions. So to have that 1 to 2, that from day one, not asking a question, Ian talking to me. Day 2, I ask a question. Ian says that's a good question. For me, think about guy who just comes out of college, and Ian's a guy that I've read for a long time. He comes over, tells me I asked a good question. I mean, things like that build your confidence as a writer and as a reporter to want to keep going. So those are two probably, I guess I would say, seminal moments for me. One that just happened not too long ago, and the other that happened at the beginning of my career.
That's amazing. And since we're talking about it, and you personally, you got your love for NBA. You got your love for food. So like, what are you ordering and what team are you watching?
Oh man, that depends. You know, usually for me, so I've made a thing out of asking Nets fans where I should go eat before a game, right? Because they have to go through the same thing, right? Like you don't want to pay $25. I was at Barclays Center last week, and there's a guy, no lie, guy on the wheelchair rolls up to the front of a line, and he looks up at the menu. He goes, yo, $6 for a water? And then he says, get the fuck out of here. I'm not paying that. And that's how everybody should feel. Why are you paying $6 for water when you go outside the arena right around the corner and get
dollar
you
waters?
Exactly.
Get you $1 water from the guy outside. Do
exactly.
Not pay $6 for water.
Exactly. It's crazy. So for me, it's more so been, okay, well, where can I get some food on the way to go to a game? So usually I'll stop at Not Ray's. And I grew up. That's the funny thing. I grew up 3 blocks away from Barclays Center. Before Barclays Center even existed, it was a lot where like either trains that did not run properly were parked, or like maybe trains would go at the end of their shift when they didn't have anywhere else to go. I don't know what it was. It kind of like a train graveyard. I grew up 2 blocks from that graveyard, and now that graveyard has turned into Barclays. And Not Ray's Pizzeria was one spot that I would go often, and that's usually where I get some food. And there's a lot of different food options in the area. But on top of that, I'm usually watching Nets basketball if I can, watching Knicks basketball because they're right over the bridge. And then on top of that, it kind of gets a little difficult to watch other teams, right? Because I've got to watch my Nets. And then sometimes I got to watch them twice because sometimes you want to watch a game and then go back in and watch and catch what you didn't get.
I mean, and plus you're writing on it. So people are waking up the next day looking for your article about what was the takeaways, you know, how would we look in? You got the inside scoop of the players. So it's almost like you need to watch it one time as a fan and like another time as your job.
Exactly. And on top of that, I know it sounds crazy, but you cannot write and watch a game at the same time. And my deadline is no later than 5 minutes after the fourth quarter ends. So I've got to call it 600 words typed up 5 minutes after the end of the game. How much of the game do you think I'm really able to watch? Right? Like it's tough. So I have to.
How are you even back. Like, I'm just imagining you trying to type, right? Watch the game of this. Wait, 5 minutes after the fourth quarter, the article needs to be ready?
The first article, because you got to think about it. We've got print deadlines. That paper has to be printed by a certain time so that our actual physical readers who want a paper can get that paper on time. You think they're going to hold that paper up because I need 7 more minutes?
New York Daily News.
Yeah.
Can you at least give them an hour? 5 minutes after the game ends? Damn, okay.
Listen, but yeah, that's how it goes. So for me, my trick is, you know, I'll usually, some people like to take notes or have observations, and I'll do that, but I tweet my notes because it's easier for me to, number one, go back on the Twitter, scroll down and be like, okay, I was talking about that. I'll get that in. And then number 2, just having to take things from physical paper to the computer. It's a waste. I wouldn't say it's a waste of time, but you can save time by actually just typing those things out. So
wow, were y'all paying attention? Chris's Twitter is basically his cheat sheet for his articles.
Pretty much. That's usually how I like to do it. And it's worked out for me. You know, I work at the Daily News. And what can I say? I'm having a ball.
Wow, what a journey. And I got to ask you a serious question.
Maybe.
As a fan, are the Nets finally getting a championship this year?
Well, here's what I've written, right? And I can't say that they will or won't get a championship because you can get to the finals and play LeBron. And if you lose to LeBron, it happens, right? But if you don't make the finals, that's a problem in my book. If I can't say you losing in the championship is a failure, right? Because I think that anybody losing to LeBron, if you're not LeBron or if you're not Steph, that's a win, right?
Hey, I'm wearing the shirt. I'm wearing the number 23 all day. You already know. I was just asking, are they winning a championship?
Exactly, yeah. And I can't say they can or can't win a championship because, I mean, honestly, if I look at the roster on paper compared to what the Lakers have, you take the Nets 10 times out of 10, right? But LeBron has that way of just happening to somehow find a way to pull out a victory. It happens. But if the Nets don't make it to the finals, that's a different story. Right now, you're looking at a failed season.
They have to win the East.
You did all this just to get bounced by the Heat. Imagine if they lose to the Heat. Imagine if Giannis knocks them out. People like me are going to have a field day. I'll probably get a raise, right? Because now I'm about to destroy them because all you had to do was get, and it's not saying that's the easiest thing. All you had to do was get to the finals, but you've got all this talent and you don't make it there. So that's where I fall back. You know, I can't say that they have to win a championship. I can't say that they will win a championship, but I can say if they don't make it to the finals, that's a bad look.
Okay. So I love it. Chris isn't giving us a pick. Very nice political answer. But absolutely, the Nets have to win the East.
Yes.
I can live with that. I can live with that. Yeah. But you brought up a good point, how if they don't, you're going to say what you want to say. How do you as a person toe that line whenever you have to give honest feedback for your readers? But this is the dude you're going to go see in the interview in the next, like KD had a tough game. Like you're going to call it is what you had a shitty game. But like, what's it like when you got to go back and interview those same players and they read your shit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think number one, athletes care a lot less about what us writers have to say than a lot of people think. But on top of that, it's, I think most players don't have a problem with talking about how they had a bad game. I think where they have a problem with is when people who have not spoken to them about said bad game start taking shots at them without having spoken to them first. Like I'm comfortable because I know that anything I write about Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, all these guys, all that ultimately is going to be rooted in facts. Right? James Harden shot 6 of 16 from the field, turned the ball over 8 times, and the Nets lost by 3. Right? And that's just a hypothetical situation. Now, I asked James Harden about that, and he's going to say, hey, I got to be better. I turned the ball over 6 times. That's on me. Hey, I shot 6 for 16. Some of those shots I probably shouldn't have took.
I love that. You make them say it. They're like, hey, so your stat line was a lot of turnovers and not many made shots. Thoughts?
Yeah. And then they're going to be like, you know what? Yeah, I got to be better. Right. And that takes some growth as a writer because you have to be the one to ask these players those uncomfortable questions.
I love how you said that NBA players don't really care, though, but we don't have NBA players out here with burner accounts.
Yeah, apparently we do.
Once you run it back and you see the episode, I was giving you so much side eye. These NBA players don't really care about what we say.
I mean, they care about I think they care about what's said about them on Twitter, but I don't think they convert to actually reading what every reader, and I could be wrong. I would love to know if Kevin Durant is reading everything I write. I would love that. That'd be great. I don't think that's real.
Well, I mean, but let's be real about it. They all millionaires. They playing in the NBA. Like y'all got it. Like no matter what is said about y'all, you got it. But I mean, I appreciate that you keep it real and you tell the truth. I definitely want to give a chance to let you plug everything that you're doing, but I have a few more questions. So
I got time.
I don't want you to overthink anything. I want you to tell me the first instinct that comes to your mind. Okay.
This water will help me do that. So I think we're good.
Good. Ready? Eastern Conference or Western Conference?
East.
Shoes. You're wearing Iversons or Kyrie's?
Kyrie's.
The NBA isn't on. Are you watching the NFL or MLB?
NFL. Oh, baseball. I haven't watched baseball in forever. That's not my thing. Even my coworkers know I'm anti-baseball. It's just too boring for me.
No, it's fine, man. You don't have to explain a damn thing. All right. Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan. 100%. 10 times out of 10.
Like he doesn't see the shirt.
I'm sorry. I see the shirt. I know.
I would like to say I grew up watching Jordan. So yes, I am like a neutral party, but I'm on the other side of the fence, but we're not going to get into that. That'll be a whole nother episode. All right, Mr. Foodie, mashed potatoes or mac and cheese?
Mac and cheese every day out of the week.
New York cheesecake or chocolate lava cake?
New York cheesecake every time.
Having another healthy kick, jackfruit or avocados?
Avocados for the win.
Wow, I really thought you were going to be jackfruit. Okay.
No, we need avocados.
Knicks or Nets?
Oh,
Ooh,
man.
I knew this was going to be hard for you.
Oh, man. So here's the thing. I grew up a Knicks fan, right? Because the Nets were in New Jersey and I'm from New York. And but I'm also from Brooklyn. And then the Nets moved to Brooklyn. So it's like, and now I cover the Nets. So I feel like I have to say Knicks. Because if I say Nets, now I'm a biased party who's covering the same team. So I'll take Knicks today.
Wow, you actually answered that question. I thought you were going to finesse some political shit again.
I did.
Truth be told, I grew up a Knicks fan, like the John Starks, Patrick Ewing days. That was my shit. Yeah. But I still have a Brooklyn Nets jacket right behind me.
Okay.
So it's all good.
I've got Brooklyn Nets jerseys all around. I should grab one. But it's,
I got one more for you. Favorite player and why?
Oh, favorite player like ever or right now?
Give me both.
Favorite player ever was Allen Iverson. I had multiple jerseys from him when I was little. And just like how he embraced that street culture, right? And then made it a thing to where other people wanted to embrace that street culture. Like that was just so dope. And then on top of that, like you're fantasized with handles and who do you synonymize with handles than Allen Iverson. Like it was amazing. Right now, dang, do I get to pick any Nets players? Yeah, I would say right now my favorite player to watch in the game is Kyrie because I think he might be the most electrifying player we have in this league in that when you watch him get into that zone where he's actually starting to break defenses down and go up one arm, come under the basket, throw it off the other side with English. He's just one of the most fun players to watch, right? Always has been. And then on top of that, he wants to hit shots in clutch moments like it's crazy. Other than that, my other favorite player of all time is no longer with us. We lost Kobe. You know, like I had several Kobe jerseys. Kobe was the guy who I used in video games. He was one of the reasons why I'm into this field because I wanted to one day get a chance to interview him. I never got that chance. But you know, it just goes to show you never know how often or how long you're gonna have someone. So cherish those while you're here before they're gone.
No, absolutely. That Mamba mentality, man. I feel like I've even appreciated him even more. Like once you go back and watch the footage and the video, these stories that you didn't even hear about, but now players are like talking about, you know, how he came in right before everyone was about to get traded. He's like, yeah, I'm here to say bye to some of you bums that are about to get traded. Like he was a real one. But I mean, I have to shout out, obviously, I see you wearing one too, but I'm in the Kembali 1 of 1 combo with my LeBron James. Who you got on over there?
I got D Rose on right here. I think it's on the backside. Yeah, D Rose. D Rose is another guy who I put into that category of being electrifying, especially earlier into his career. That was one of the reasons why I kind of chose this. I was like, I think at the time I had just finished covering Derrick Rose. Like Derrick Rose was in New York. How long did I get this shirt? I don't know, but I think
what was that, like a year and a half ago or something like that? About like that. Can I see the logo real quick? I think it's right on the front, right?
Yeah, it's the D Rose. Oh, let me stand up.
Yeah,
D Rose.
Hey.
Yeah, you know, like I think this shirt came to me maybe a year or a year and a half after D Rose was in New York, and D Rose is one of the guys that I had connected with. Like he was in locker rooms, you know what I'm saying? And some of these guys, you know, and this is one thing that I've realized about basketball players that really just translates over into any type of athlete. They're regular human beings. They just happen to get paid a lot of money to do the job that they want. But these guys go home either to their families or to their homes by themselves, and they play Call of Duty just like I do, or go home and play 2K just like anybody else. They go home and order off Uber Eats just like anybody else. They just happen to order more food than you because they have more money at their disposal. And once you get that out of your mind, once you understand, hey, these are regular dudes, you can connect with them, right? And me and D Rose are one of the guys that just happened to connect. He was really cool.
It's so funny. You just said like Call of Duty and Uber Eats like that. That's exactly what we're about to do. That's what we're about to do. In between talking about NBA, because I could literally talk about NBA and sports with you all day, which I'm going to continue to do even after we're done with this episode. But before we wrap it up, I always want to hand it over to you and give a chance to speak to everybody who's watching. Like, please plug, like, how can someone like follow you, check out your articles, obviously give out the fire Twitter handle, but give us all those plugs.
Before I plug myself, I want to plug everybody else, you know, like just be good to your neighbors, be good to those people who are around you, you know, just be a good human being, right? That's what we're all here for. That's That's why we're all here. You can't.
Is that your secret? Is that your blueprint to like how you made it? Like you're just a good dude?
I'd like to say I'm a good dude. Some people might disagree. You never know. But
they ain't here. We ain't listening
facts,
to them.
I'd like to say I'm a good dude. But I always show love. That's one thing that anyone who has dealt with me or who's seen me or who's worked with me knows. I'm not shady. You know what I'm saying? Like I always show love and I always try to help the next man however I can. So if you could do that for whoever's around you, that would mean the world to me more than following me on social media. However, if you do want to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter, Instagram at Kris Splash. That's KrisPlashed. And honestly, you could just go pick up a New York Daily News. I'll be on the back page or somewhere in the sports section talking about the Nets or talking about the NBA. So come check your boy out.
That's such a great humble brag. Yeah, you can check me in the New York Daily News. Go ahead and pick up that magazine. I'm in there. I love that.
Yeah, I am.
I love it. Congrats to you on that. Hats off. And you definitely got to, if you heard all the handles, Kris Splashed, that's Twitter and IG. Okay, cool. And yes, I love how you talked about like, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying the Twitter has the check mark, the IG does not, but we're working on the IG.
Oh, verified on Twitter, working on the IG.
Hopefully, if we get Instagram verified, it's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough to get in contact with me in 2021 if I had an IG check mark.
I mean, don't forget about us over here at Kambali.
No. We good. I just need that duffel bag full of shirts and we be all right.
Oh, okay. Just a duffel bag full of shirts. Okay. I'll let the producer and director know in the background. But I also got to say, I love how you talked about just being a good human being, spreading the vibes, the positivity. It sounds like spread love. It's the Brooklyn way.
It is, and it's really, honestly, it's supposed to be the human way, right? We're all supposed to look at our brothers and sisters, and it doesn't always happen because it either boils down to competition or comparison, right? And Jeff Van Gundy said something not too long ago, and I think someone else has said it before, but it stands true to this day. Comparison is the thief of joy, right? Don't look at your mans. Don't look at what the next man has going on. Look at how you can help how you can help the next man, because what you put out comes back to you. And I think that's something that I was taught early that I didn't take seriously, right? You always get taught what goes around comes around. You're like, what are you talking about? No, seriously, what goes around comes around. So just look at different ways to be the best you for other people so that other people can be their best selves for you.
That's facts, because I think so many times people see success with someone else and they're like, I want that. And, hate on it. But it's like, just because someone else is successful, it doesn't take away your success.
Yeah.
Well, go out there and get it.
It took me a while to get that too, because you get caught in your own ego. Like, why would I help the next man when he is now where I'm trying to be? Like, nah, just go try to be a resource to anybody. And then sooner or later, you'll see that now you're surrounded with people who want to be resources to you.
Wow. I really appreciate you for the time. That is Kris. You can check him in the New York Daily News and courtside, probably a lot at the Knicks and Nets game. Let's talk about it. Another humble brag. And then I'm your girl Switz. It has been a blast. This is the Kembali podcast. Please stay tuned for all the episodes we have coming up.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Kembali podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Kembali Podcast. Kembali gear can be purchased at www.kembali.com. That's KEMBALII.com. And you can stay up to date on merch drops by following the Kembali brand on IG at Kembali_. New podcast episodes drop every Monday at 7 a.m. See you next week on the Kembali Podcast.